Diamond P Sports presents the American Sports Cavalcade. A panorama of speed, color, drama, and excitement. The American Sports Cavalcade. Anytime Winston funny car champion John Forrest journeys north of the border, he always steals the show, one way or another. 1 year ago at Lake Grandnational Molson, a rain-delayed Monday morning final, it was Forrest with awesome performance and incredible driving around an earlier oil down to take the title. 1 year later, in yesterday's final qualifying, it was Forrest capturing the fans' imagination in his least favorite, but he'll take it fashion, a typical Forrest volcano. Austin Coyle checking with John Forrest. First of all, John's okay. They've cooled him off with some water. And John, everyone at home knew, as you did, when those windows in the firewall lit up, you were in big trouble again.
We're back. What can I say? That was strange. Gave no warning. Motor was trucking, and again, we did what we had to do with the race car trying to run Lloyd T. I didn't know what she run, but it was a queer deal. She never lights up like that on me, and
can it be fixed? Do you need a new body?
This team, the attack team, can fix anything. We got spare bodies. We got spare everything. We'll just have to fix it. Kind of amazing, though, huh?
Well, John Forrest was right. Last night, the attack team replaced all the fuel lines, air lines, computer wiring. The computer itself snapped on a fresh body. He was ready to go in round one earlier and won with a nice, safe, fire-free 5.49 second elapsed time. Hello, everyone. I'm Steve Evans again in Montreal Sanair International Drag Strip. John Forrest was not the #1 qualifier, though, in funny car. That honor went to Jim White, the Hawaiian Punch Dodge Daytona. He, too, survived round #1. In Top Fuel, a resurgence of Darrell Gwynn's Coors Light team, with his driver Frank Hawley taking the #1 spot at a 5:03. He, too, will be around for the second stanza. But this is a very, very tricky racetrack. Let's go to Big Daddy Don Garlitz.
Well, Steve, the track here at Montreal has always presented a special problem to the race teams. It is that the air is cool and heavy, making real good horsepower, but the track surface itself doesn't like that power. It's probably because of the materials. They're very sharp, they chew up the tires, but you don't have a lot of surface area. So this puts a lot of strain on the race team. They're trying to maintain that delicate balance between having enough power to win the race, but not spin the tires. So consequently, we have not seen any 4-second runs here at this event. Now, we might see some, but I doubt it. Now, the pro stocks, without all that excess power, they are not presented with this problem. More on that story. Here's Brock Yates.
Well, Big Daddy, as you say, well, the fuel cars are having all kinds of problems laying down some low ETs on this racetrack. The pro stock guys have been just tearing this racetrack apart. Get this, the 16-car field qualified at within 97 thousandths of a second of one another, and all of them broke the track record. The man on top of the heap was Scott Jeffrey, and laid down a 7:23. And Scott, you guys are just running real well here.
Yeah, it's mostly due to the atmospheric conditions. The track surface is very tricky, even more today than it was on the other given days. That's due to the direct sunlight on it, but it's going to be a battle in the bell housing today, as they say.
Well, you guys just run so tight anyway. It involves great starting line tactics and just terrific horsepower. But what are you going to do to make the racetrack come to you with these cars today?
Well, when you have a crew chief like Kirk Johnson, that's all in his hands. He gives me the loaded gun, and I just fire it.
Okay, well, let's hope no blanks today.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Steve?
Well, guys, it is time for round #2 of Top Fuel Eliminator, 5,000 horsepower apiece. This first pairing will pit that man, Kenny Bernstein, in the Budweiser King car, up against the young lady from Corpus Christi, Texas, the Jolly Rancher car of Lori John. Bernstein, unlike last year, his first year in Top Fuel when he had no success whatsoever, has won 3 national events this season. The Arizona Nationals, the Super Nationals, the Southern Nationals. Lori John's had 1 big win at the Mid-South Nationals 2 events back. Well, for very good reason. Lori Johns loves it anytime she can line up with Kenny Bernstein. Her success ratio against the red and white car has been just amazing this season. Let's go down and find out how Brock and Don feel about that.
Well, big going to be interesting. Got the young lady going against the king. What do you think?
Well, I'll tell you, Lori Johns has run better every run than Kenny Bernstein. She has lane choice. This is going to be a real tough confrontation for Kenny.
What do you like the lady?
I think Lori Johns will win this race.
Okay, let's watch.
Well, we just saw her father, Terry Johns, lining up the 300-inch dragster, where he thinks the most traction exists, and of course Dale Armstrong, crew chief for Kenny Bernstein, on the other side doing likewise. Bernstein, the first to move forward, four-time funny car champion in his career out of Dallas, Texas, a real entrepreneur in all of motorsports. And Lori Johns worked her way up the Top Fuel competition with a variety of hot rod cars, came back from a terrible accident, and truly has established herself now as a champion in this sport with 4 total victories over the past few seasons.
Well, Steve, now the mind game starts. Lori wants to psych him out.
She's successfully done that earlier this year at the Winston Invitation.
She certainly has. So Bernstein has got to stay on his toes at this point.
Just try to drive his own race. But with all those lights blinking on that electronic device out in front of him a few feet, that's easier said than done.
You bet. I've left sometimes when I saw the other one stage. I was so psyched out.
That's right. Any movement on those lights can cause that right foot to react. Good start. Bernstein has a handle on this one. A little fire out of the motor. That concerns Dale Armstrong, but he'll take the victory. Bernstein thumped her good this time. A 5:05.281 to a 5:29.268. Brock Yates is down on the starting line with the winning crew chief, Dale Armstrong.
What do you think? 5:05, good clean pass. A little fire down the other end, though.
Yeah, that's what I saw. Oh, we've just been fighting it all weekend, you know, and finally it's good to see a little bit of results. I hope the damage isn't real severe.
We hope not.
Okay.
Go get her.
Well, they can fix any damage that has occurred, and the 5:05 puts the Armstrong and Bernstein team right into the thick of it. As we watch this replay, we see Lori John move just slightly ahead of Bernstein, but she didn't have enough clutch in the car, and Bernstein's car immediately moves out. And it seemed like Bernstein was doing quite well, but then fire comes out of the exhaust pipe, so there could be problems.
To find out, let's go to Steve at the other end of the track.
A 5:05, but you hurt the motor to do it.
Yeah, it did it shutting down again, Steve. It was over with, and I was just coasting, and it must have pulled a pin apart or something at the end. But we're happy with that. Obviously, it's a good run. Lori's whipped us like a dog for so long that, you know, we needed to get one by her, but she does a good job. That whole team does.
Liable to see a fresh bullet in this one, guys.
Well, Bernstein was blowing up before he got to the end of the course, and they definitely have lost that good 5:05 engine.
This engine's in fine shape. It's Mike Dunn's funny car power plant. He'll enjoy a bye in run number 2. And remember, Mike's on a tear, having won the last 2 events.
A huge crowd here at Montreal for the NHRA Grandnational Molson drag races. I'm Steve Evans along with Brock Yates and Big Daddy Don Garlitz and 50,000 of our closest friends on a beautiful 75-degree day. And this is race 2 in round 2 of Top Fuel Eliminator. And Joe Amato will be all by himself, just the way the ladder works out, in that there's no other car to watch. Brock, what a view we're going to have from the in-car up high on the wing.
Just like hanging on to the back of that big, tall wing on that Top Fuel dragster. It's a Swindell chassis, 300-inch wheelbase on that thing, Big Daddy. That's about normal for these cars, though, isn't it?
Well, that's the limit. That's as long as they can be, and of course, everybody have built the cars to the maximum. This allows the maximum amount of weight to be on the rear wheels. It is powered by a Keith Black 496 cubic inch engine. 500 is the maximum. 5,000 horsepower is estimated that these engines produce. Now, of course, no dyno will handle that kind of power, but it's a very accurate estimate. Figure the computer, the wind resistance, the weight of the car. It takes that much power to accelerate these cars at 5 gravities and up to 290 miles an hour.
And the challenge, of course, for Amato, even on this bye run, is to stay in that very narrow groove. You can see if you get out to that light-colored pavement, you're not going to get the kind of traction you need. Joe Amato, a 3-time NHRA Winston champion, tying Big Daddy Don Garlitz and Shirley Muldowney with that total. He'd like to make it 4, but right now he is second in points to Don the Snake Prudhomme. So here's Amato on a bye run. You can bet he'll run it all the way through as he wants lane choice for the following round. That goes to the quicker of the 2 cars. Amato would like to be that guy. Oh, look at the vibration. Amato almost gets out of the groove, but still pounds it through at a 5.06. Not quite as good as his first round 5.03, 278 miles per hour. Let's go to the starting line. Brock Yates with Tim Richards.
Well, Tim, what do you think? 5.06.
Well, that's really what we were looking for, and I felt as though this lane was probably a little bit worse than the other lane, but I wanted to see if we could down it. It really concerned me more whether he hit one of those birds that was nesting down the end of the track, I'll tell you the truth.
You were real light burnout, did almost none, trying to save the tires?
No, that's not by design. Since we put this new fuel system on, we're having a difficult time getting the fuel air system right on it.
Okay, so that was not a planned deal.
No, it never is.
Well, the 5.06 is okay nonetheless.
Oh, we'll take it.
Okay.
Well, I think the short burnout did save the tires, but let's take a look at these birds. Look at them out on the screen. Can you imagine what Amato must have been thinking? He was coming down that track at 270 miles an hour. One of those birds could go right through the windshield.
Big, tough seagulls. They're about as brave as drag racers, too, Don. Nothing scares them, believe me. Okay, we got another pair in round 2 here in Top Fuel. This is Don Prudhomme versus Dick LaHaye. The Snake coming in here after a monster crash last year in qualifying at Sanair. Like Bernstein, his second year in Top Fuel competition is a whole lot more successful, Don.
You bet it is, Brock. He won at Columbus at the Spring Nationals and took the points lead.
Before he races, let's go to Steve.
Well, nothing can sneak up on a flock of seagulls like a vehicle traveling about 350 feet a second. You didn't see it, Joe, but the parachute scared him half to death.
The parachute way?
Bunch of seagulls. I'm just kidding. A 5.06, not as good as you'd hope for, maybe.
Well, 5.06 pretty good. It's pretty hot. You know, we went a 5.09 before that, but we smoked the center out of the tire, and the tires look pretty good, so.
They look much better. Put more wing in it, or what?
Well, we made some adjustments in the clutch to try and not get it so hot right off the starting line, you know, just some fine-tuned adjustments and trying to get it down the track.
If nothing happens at the track and you should have lane choice in the Final Four, what lane would you like to be in?
I don't know. That was a toss-up that time. Timmy picked the right one, and he went out and looked at the left one, and he said, you know, they're both pretty bad.
Would rather hit a little different verbiage, but at least they're equal. Same for everybody.
Well, I think they'll find that short burnout certainly reduce the heat in those tires, and that's one of the things that will save them at this racetrack.
Okay, there's the veteran, Dick LaHaye, out of Lansing, Michigan, backing in for his go against Don the Snake Prudhomme here in round 2 competition.
LaHaye is a past Winston champion. He's won the title only on one occasion. And at this race here in Canada, he's being sponsored by the Tim Horton Donut chain. Don the Snake Prudhomme, of course, carrying the banner of Skull, the Skull Bandit, Granada Hills, California. The Snake is more relaxed today than I've seen him in a long time. Not so the man down here at the end of the racetrack.
I always like to see the points leader take a dive, you know. I'm sure they stand here and wish we do the same thing when we're ahead.
All right, well, Dick LaHaye has a fan at the far end of the racetrack. His name is Joe Amato, because Joe could make a sizable gain in points here if Prudhomme loses.
But that's a distinct possibility because Dick LaHaye, one of the real pros in this business, very seldom makes a mistake on a drag strip.
Staged and ready. LaHaye off the mark first. LaHaye in front, but Prudhomme from behind.
Prudhomme still won, even though he had a fireball at the end. Look at that, he smoked it up.
A spectacular drag race, Don Garlitz.
You bet, Steve. I even like the comments that Amato was making. He knew that engine's going to be coming out of Prudhomme's car. And you know, the start was unbelievable. LaHaye welds Prudhomme to the line, but must not have had enough clutch out there just about a few hundred feet because Prudhomme starts to pick it up. You can see a little bit of blue smoke coming off Prudhomme's tires and a puff of blew out engine. Then the flames come, and he gets by LaHaye just by inches.
Anytime one of these motors pumps that much oil out of it, the headers are sure to ignite it, and that accounts for the fireball. Don, it could just be burned pistons. Let's hope so.
Oh, yeah, just burned pistons.
Yeah, well, better than rods out of it.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know, we're running real hard, and it shook pretty hard out there, and I think it kind of tore it up a little bit.
Yeah, but it must have tore it up late because it still ran a 5.06, as good as Amato.
Yeah, that's real good. You know, we'll have to see. We still got a tough round ahead of us, you know.
They're all tough these days.
Thank you, Steve.
One race remains in this round. Frank Hawley against Gene Snow. Brock, Don?
Well, Big, we got the Snowman, a real old veteran. Not going to shake him, but Hawley's got to be strong in this one.
Well, Hawley's car has been running so consistent. He's like a bracket car. It's hard to bet against him. Snow has been hot and cold. I just don't think that he's up to what Hawley can do this afternoon.
What's he going to have to do to beat him?
Oh, he's going to have to run 5 flat.
5 flat. All right, there you heard it.
And there is the man who has orchestrated Frank Hawley's very successful weekend. That, of course, Ken Benny, the crew chief. The Coors Light car driven by Hawley, owned by Gerald Gwynn, is the #1 qualifier at this event and picked up a bonus $4,000. Frank Hawley, Gainesville, Florida. And I agree with Don Garland. Gene Snow, Fort Worth, Texas, has been just a little bit erratic with the Mopar car because he tries so many things. But once he gets something to click, he'll roar right through an event. But he's got to get a good early start to make that happen.
Now, he's dangerous, Steve. He could come up with that 5 flat if he has to, or looks into it or something.
Well, let's hope for your sake he does, because you're 0-1 so far on your predictions. Snow in the bright red car. In the near lane is Frank Hawley, the low qualifier. And Snow breaks right off the line. Possibly a blower belt came off with that car. Hawley thunders through at 5'10", 276 miles per hour. Frank Hawley continues to survive here at Lake Grandnational Molson in Quebec, Canada.
So he will move into the Top Fuel Final Four against Kenny Bernstein. Kenny will have lane choice by a substantial margin of 5:05 versus a 5:10 for Frank Hawley. And the other pair, though, a whole lot closer. The Snake, Don Prudhomme versus Joe Amato. Joe has lane choice, but only by 4 1/1000ths of a second. Almost identical ETs at 5:06s.
Well, here is a prime example of what Big Daddy Don Garlitz was talking about earlier. This very abrasive racetrack has burned the center right out of the tires. That's scary looking, Frank.
Well, it actually probably looks a little worse than it is. Certainly isn't good for performance, but I don't think it's a safety problem right now. The track's very loose in the middle of the course when the wing's making a lot of downforce, and that's what's causing this.
Well, this car that has been running 5:03 slowed to a 5:10, maybe because of that.
Well, yeah, with no doubt at all. The car's loose. We decided to maybe try the right lane. It's really tough. Maybe we should have stayed on the left side.
Well, Kenny Bernstein next round will tell you where to stage.
Sometimes that takes the guesswork out of it.
I guarantee it will.
We'll see Hawley go against Bernstein a little later, but coming up right after this, the second round of Funny Car.
We're back at Lake Grandnational Molson here at Sanair International Drag Strip, and it's time for tire-smoking, ground-pounding nitro funny cars. And a great pair here, the Hawaiian Punch car, driven by Jim White. White this year won his first ever NHRA national event earlier in the season back in Arizona. And, of course, his competition, Ed McCullough, the only 5-time winner of the most prestigious drag race of them all, the U.S. Nationals at Indianapolis Labor Day weekend. Now, Big Daddy Don Garlitz, Ed McCullough, they tried a lot of new things. It didn't work. They've gone back to an old combination, but they're having to urge it on as well. You just can't go backwards sometimes.
Yeah, they're in one of those slumps. You just get into that deal, and you just can't hardly get out of it. You know how to go fast and quick, but it's so hard to get a handle on it. And Bernie Fedley is the man, the crew chief, that's got to figure it out. And you can bet they've been working hard trying to get ready for White because he's tough.
Almost 24 hours a day for Bernie Fedley, Ed McCullough, Larry Minor, and the crew of the Otter Pops car. Well, what Ed McCullough has taught Larry Minor about racing, Larry Minor has paid back the favor, teaching Ed McCullough how to be a potato farmer. The ace has got 150 acres. It's a start. Jim White, well, he's also a racer businessman from Tulsa, Oklahoma, where he has a water purification company, and he does a lot of the sponsor relations for the car owner Roland Leong here. The Hawaiian Punch Dodge Daytona, the Otter Pops car of Ed McCullough. Jim White had the lane choice. You can see where he's decided to stage on the left side of your screen, now in the near lane. Ooh, a great shot off the line by Ed McCullough. McCullough has problems. It is Roland Leong's Hawaiian. You just saw the car owner and Jim White, but I heard a great big pop just before that car crossed the finish line. I'm not sure whether crew chief Roland Leong heard it or not.
Will a 5:41 keep you in this game or what?
It might, but we don't like it. We should have run a 30 that time. We'll go back, look at our computer, see what it says, see what happened.
Go get him.
Thank you, Brock.
Roland's going to be real surprised when he gets back to the pits and pulls those tapes out of that computer and he sees that manifold pressure went off the scale when that thing popped at the far end, because we could hear it. He might be faced with the same thing that Bernstein's faced with here, this big engine change, blower change. And, you know, that's bad. That loses your combination. And it's almost like starting all over again. Meanwhile, let's go down to the far end. Steve is with Jim White.
I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but you can see the fractures here in this fiberglass body, also up around the injector. We heard a bang, and let's see. There's no doubt about it. The supercharger loose on top of the engine. A big win at 5:41, but big problems, Jim.
Yeah, it just before the finish line, it looks like it for some reason caught the blower. We'll take a look at it. We got lots of parts.
Okay. Jim White to the final four.
Well, that blower being loose on that engine confirms it. They've got lots of work to do to get ready for the next round.
Well, one guy with not too much work to do is Mike Dunn. Much like Joe Amato in top field, he has a bye.
Well, Big, we got a real strong car and driver out there with Mike Dunn in that car. He's going to make a single. Obviously, he's going to look for lane choice, but what else are they going to look for in a pass like this?
Well, this is really a good opportunity to test the track, put a little more clutch in it than they normally would. Hopefully, they can find a little bit better combination. If it spins the tires, they don't lose. They just lose lane choice.
Right.
But it could be a very important run for the next round.
Okay. Well, looks like he's taking this near lane. Does that seem to be the good one?
Almost all of the wins have come out of this lane, with the exception of a couple. Generally speaking, I think it is the better lane right now.
What do you think he's got? What will be a good pass for him right now? A 30 maybe?
536, 537, 538. He'd be tickled to death with that.
Okay, let's watch.
Well, I'd agree with that, and I'm sure Mike's crew chief brother Jim Dunn would be as well. Anything under 540 would be a home run in this ballpark right now. Mike Dunn has won the last two NHRA national events in Memphis and also in Columbus, Ohio, looking for the hat trick as the young man recently moved from California to Mountjoy, Pennsylvania, and now moving down 1,320 feet. A 541, kind of middle of the road elapsed time for Mike Dunn at 265 miles per hour. Remains to be seen whether that will earn him lane choice. We'll be right back with more from Lake Grandnational Molson after these words. Stay with us.
I'm Brock Yates, along with my pal Steve Evans and Big Daddy Don Garlitz up in Quebec at the NHRA Grandnational Molson at Sanair. As work continues in the pit area, that's Joe Amato's top fuel dragster. Tim Richards and the boys getting it ready for his go in the top fuel final four against Don Prudhomme. That engine soon to be assembled and taken out to the starting line where work is now going on. That's Tom Anderson, the crew chief on Al Hoffman's funny car, doing a quick bit of repair work before he gets ready to go against Mark Oswald. But now let's go to the far end with Steve Evans and Mike Dunn.
When you figure in the last two races in which he's been victorious, Mike Dunn has now won 10 consecutive rounds of competition. In this day and age, that's tough to do, young man.
Yeah, it's very hard to do, but you know, my dad's just got the Snickers Kmart Daytona running real well, so hopefully we can add another 2 more rounds to that.
You know, the last few tracks we've raced on haven't been all that great. It's been hotter, the weather's been humid. What happens when this car gets to what they call the super tracks? Can your dad perform as well there?
Well, we're going to find out. I think he can because we've increased our mile per hour from when we had problems at the beginning of the year to step up on the good tracks. Only time will tell, but he's savvy enough that I think he will definitely step her up.
I think we're seeing very smart racing from this team.
Thank you.
Very good combination there, father, son. They got good communication. That's real important in this sport.
Okay, we're ready for more funny car round 2 action. The burnouts continue. That's Hoffman's car. And earlier, Big Daddy, we saw Tom Anderson, his crew chief, working on that automobile. What do you think was going on?
Looked to me like from the wrench it was laying out there, it could have just been a minor thing like tightening a fuel line. It didn't look serious. No one was looking panicked to me.
Well, they've got some tough competition now. Hopefully there's nothing at all wrong with that BDS car over in the far line because they'll need every bit of muscle they can muster. Al Hoffman, originally from New York State, now living down in Florida, full-time drag racer along with his wife, Helen. Mark Oswald, well, he's been a full-time pro most of his adult life, formerly with the Candies and Hughes team. And now this car, owned by Jeff and Susan Bernstein. There's an identical car on the West Coast, owned by another team, and Mark flies back and forth and drives both cars. It's an oddball deal, but it sure is working. He won the Gator Nationals earlier this year. Oswald near lane, Hoffman right lane. Experience edge has to go to the man in the red car. Beautiful start. Oswald loses traction, stays with it. No. Al Hoffman, his crew celebrating a 5.44 victory. Nice elapsed time, 267 miles per hour. Back at the starting line, Brock Yates is with crew chief Tom Anderson.
A 44. What do you think? Of course, Oswald smoked the tires, but still, you won it.
Yeah, and you know, we were real fortunate because we had an airline leak up there in our clutch management system, and I was real concerned about it, so we were real fortunate.
So you can go quicker after you get that sorted out.
Yeah, we think we can go a little quicker.
Go get him.
Thanks.
Okay.
Well, they obviously got it sorted out and ran a 544, which is very good. At the start, we see Oswald takes a slight starting line advantage, but Hoffman quickly picks it up. It seemed like we got down the course a ways, and they just brought too much clutch in on that Oswald car. As you can see, the tires break loose. This track just doesn't like that early clutch engagement. You have to be very sensitive with it. Hoffman running a very conservative team. You can see no smoke off the tires, no smoke out of the engine. 544, that's good enough.
All right, we're right back at it. That's Chuck Etchells. He's going against John Force, defending Winston champion in that well-known Castro GTX Jolly Rancher automobile. Force doing his burnout. Force will have lane choice as he goes against Etchells. But first, let's go to Steve.
Well, that is just simply the case of one crew chief guessing wrong and one guessing right. For Al Hoffman, Tom Anderson made the right call at 544 as Oswald billowed the tires.
Yeah, it repeated. That's what we were looking for. Got a problem up there with the air bottle. And,
really?
Yeah. He had to switch an airline. I had nothing to do with controlling the clutch that time. He did it all. So anytime you're racing Mark Oswald over there, it's a tough deal.
So you dodged a bullet, really?
Yeah, that's for sure.
Well, Al's pretty experienced at dodging bullets, so he's doing good.
Well, this is going to be an interesting race here. Etchells, of course, the number 3 qualifier. He beat Del Worsham in round number 1. Force, number 6 in the qualifying order. He beat Gary Denzum in the first round. So Force, of course, always the favorite. Very experienced crew. That's Austin Coyle, his crew chief, giving him the thumbs up there as the body comes down on that monster automobile. John Force, of course, the defending Winston champion, won 7 races last year, dominated this field, has some problems here so far at Sanair. Chuck Etchells out of the state of Connecticut, qualified in here at number 3, won a race last year, and doing quite well so far this season.
The 537 that Etchells got running qualifying put a smile on the face of his crew chief, Paul Smith, for the first time this year. They've got all the good parts, all the good pieces. They just have not been able to coordinate the combination. Maybe they've got it now. That 537 in qualifying told them an awful lot.
They've got John Force in a weakened position right now because he's had a lot of trouble today.
All right, we're on a pass with Force. We don't see Etchells. That's because Etchells is having big problems in the far lane. John Force, he dodged a bullet. 552, not particularly good. Let's go to the starting line. Brock is with crew chief Austin Coyle.
Austin, a quick word. Wasn't pretty, but 52, you move on anyway.
Well, the problems we've had this weekend, we'll take it any way we can get it.
Okay.
You can see Austin wants to get down to the end. He has definitely got his mind on trying to get that car tuned up. We look at the start. John Force took a shot right on the line, took a slight starting line advantage. He knew he needed everything he could get. And fortunately, as we get down course, Etchells certainly had the capability of running a 552, but he smoked those tires much earlier. John smoked a little bit, but not near as much. Recovered the car very nicely and moved on to get by this round, and hopefully they'll get it tuned up.
So that sets the stage for the funny car Final Four. It'll be John Force versus Mike Dunn. Mike Dunn with a big lane choice there. The second pairing, Al Hoffman, who squeezed through. We just saw him do that against Jim White. White running very strong at a 5-4. He will have lane choice. Now John Force is out of the car at the other end. Steve's with him.
Got to tell you, when you light a fire under John Force, as happened yesterday in qualifying, it just seems to make he and his teamwork all that much harder. You were smoking the tires and still drilled him with the 552.
Hanging on, clear down there to the lights. I gave Dunn lane choice.
Yes.
Well, going back, clear back to Memphis, one of the things that we fought real hard on this deal was this P. Jackson barrel valve. Everyone's saying it's giving them the reaction times, and Coyle tried to find me a build our own, and it just made me slower, and he got rid of it today and went back to basics, like I said earlier, and at least we're racing, and that's what counts. We ain't real fast, but we can hold our own with Dunn for a while.
Well, the safety safari's not headed this way either. That's the best news.
Yeah, I told him this morning I'd give him the day off. But, can I say, we're still alive.
Indeed.
So John Force into the Final Four. Coming up is Pro Stock action, and you'll be seeing this man, Bob Litton, in his Ford Probe. Stick with us.
Presented by Castrol GTX. It's a 24-hour drag racing information line with the latest info on your favorite drivers and events. Call 1-900-468-NHRA. Big Daddy Don Garlitz?
Earlier I told you this Montreal track surface was very strange. The surface is kind of jaggedy and it tends to tear at the tires. Let me show you what I mean. These 4 tires that are in this pile belong to Joe Amato. They were brand new, $300 a piece. One run. Look what happened going down course. These cars have a lot of horsepower and they want to get traction. They adjust the wings to push the tires down to the surface, but the surface still tends to have slippage, and these little jagged rocks just tear the tires away. It is a crew chief's nightmare, and the person that wins this race is going to be the one who figures out how to deal with this problem from run to run.
Well, if you're a nitro crew chief, you just can't afford to get greedy on this racetrack. It will bite you. Pro stocks aren't faced with quite that problem. It's still a little bit tricky, but they seem to have a handle on it, especially Bob Glidden here in the near lane, the bright red Motorcraft Quality Parts Ford Probe. Glidden, of course, the 10-time champion, lost the title last year just very narrowly to Darrell Alderman in the Dodge we'll be seeing later on in this round. But the big news here at Montreal has been that car over in the other lane. That is Jim Yates. His Pontiac qualified number 2 at a 7.24, and he defeated Chevrolet great Bruce Allen in round number 1. Bob Glidden knows that he has got a formidable challenge in the other lane in the person of Jim Yates. This could be an awfully good pro stock drag race. Now, Glidden is using the 5-speed transmission, a controversial unit. It has gears in it. It's not a planetary unit like in the Jim Yates car. Only he and Larry Morgan are using them. Let's see how it goes. He's got to remember to shift that final time, something he's forgotten earlier this year. Glidden bumping it through the gears. It is Glidden, even though Yates had an almost perfect start. The starting line advantage definitely went to Yates to win at 7.23 to Glidden. Yates a 7.34. You'll look again here, and I think clearly you'll see the man in the far lane. That's as close as you can come to a foul start or red light and not get one.
Yeah, 4:01. Can you imagine 1,000th off an absolute perfect light? But Glidden had tremendous power, or that 5-speed transmission. Who knows which? But whatever, it gave him a 7.23, and 7.34 is no match for that.
Boy, did you ever step up. Did that one feel good?
It was a little better. The first round, we went from 3rd to 5th gear, Steve. We're having a lot of trouble with these 5 gears, but that felt a little better.
You must have found 4th that time. The quick time of elimination, 7.23.
Good. We need it. We need all we can get. You know, Yates did a good job.
That number 2 qualifier.
Yeah, I'm telling you. He stepped right up, too.
Okay. More action in the Pro Stock round 2. That is Scott Jeffrion in that AC Delco Oldsmobile. He's going against that bright yellow Pontiac of Jerry Ekman. Ekman and Jeffrion, the number 1 qualifier here, Steve, and he has really run well out of the Warren Johnson crew.
And that relationship started kind of casually. Once in a while, Scott will have you drive the backup car. Johnson found out how good he really is. Jerry Ekman from Newark, Ohio, the Pennzoil Pontiac, was part of that 4-way fight for the Winston Championship last year. Scott Jeffrion looks forward to a fight for the Winston Championship this year. The young man out of Huntington Beach, California, just has a wonderful finesse with a pro stock automobile. Jerry Ekman over in the other lane, pre-stage. So is Jeffrion. Ekman moves forward first. Starter Buster Couch ready to send them on their way. Whoa! It is Jeffrion by a blue and white bumper over Ekman, a 7.29 to Jerry 7.34 second elapsed time.
Jerry Ekman makes a valiant start, takes a slight starting line advantage. He knew he had a tough competitor over there in the other lane. Scott Jeffrion's been running good all day today, but Jeffrion pulled another one of those 720s out of the bag, and that's all it took to get by Jerry Ekman and become the Pro Stock winner for this round.
For the first time in a long time, Scott Jeffrion has defeated Jerry Ekman, but for a moment you thought you had lost.
Well, when you run a guy like Jerry Ekman, I mean, competition doesn't get any tougher, you know, and he's been pretty hard on me this year, and it's a real confidence builder to beat such a, you know, a good racer as Jerry Ekman.
7.29.
Thank you.
So Scott Jeffrion moves on, and let's see what happens now to his boss. That is Warren Johnson, the car owner of Scott's and a sister Oldsmobile, as he gets ready to go against yet another Oldsmobile, and a strong one, the Castro GTX car of Larry Morgan, Steve.
Now, that's another one of the cars with the 5-speed transmissions, and he and Glidden both have been having to concentrate on making that final gear change after all those runs with a 4-speed. Warren Johnson, Duluth, Georgia, he's thinking about that 5-speed, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him with one soon. He's a real innovator and a thinker, and occasionally Jeffrion's team car may be a little bit quicker. That's because they try all the new stuff on Scott's car. Johnson is really the car they're running for the Winston Championship. But the relationship is, if the two ever get together, they race for it. No holds barred. I like that. Great race. Moving around a little bit was Johnson. Oh, but having something go wrong is Larry Morgan. So Warren, there it is, a 7:30. Warren Johnson, 100th of a second slower than Scott Jeffrion and the other AC Delco Oldsmobile, but he's faster, a speed of 190 miles per hour. And there is the fastest of the fast. The lone Dodge, the B1 Bomber Daytona. Darrell Alderman, the Winston champion. Don Garlett.
It certainly is the B1 Bomber, and it has a nice Dodge engine in it. But he's going to be faced with a strong car. Gordy Rivera will cut him no slack on the starting line because he's expecting a good run out of him, so he's got to take it on the line. He wants to win this drag race right off the bat.
That's right. Now, Darrell Alderman arrived here at this event late, only had one qualifying run to put it in the field. They had to be conservative, so they put it in the number 10 slot. This is only, well, his third run of the event, counting first round. The man out of Fairfield, Illinois, Darrell Alderman. Gordy Rivera from Yuma, Arizona, and he's always remind me a little bit of Lee Trevino. He has that big smile and just a great attitude about drag racing as Trevino does to golf, and I'm sure he'd be proud of that comparison.
The Wayne County Speed Shop have actually been using the competition runs to tune that car because, like you said, they only got that one qualifying run. So they've been doing good this morning.
Oh, absolutely. They're thrilled to death. Now, Gordy Rivera hopes that's a disadvantage, and they don't have a complete handle on it yet. He'll be in the right lane. Rivera, an excellent driver up the starting line, but then so again is Alderman. It is Alderman who moves first. Alderman by 200ths. Alderman by 3 car lengths at the other end. A 725, 189 miles per hour to a departing 737, 188 for Gordy Rivera.
So that will move him into the final 4 in Pro Stock against Scott Jeffrion. Alderman will have lane choice, but only by a wink, is pretty customary in this kind of competition. Teammate Warren Johnson, well, he goes against arch rival Bob Glidden in the other half of that final 4. Glidden will have lane choice. And remember, Glidden ran a 723 and topped it off with 191 miles an hour through the track.
Well, a 725 sends Gordy Rivera trucking back to Tucson, but you'd rather be going quicker than slower, which is the case.
Oh, yes, Glidden just run the 23s.
That surprised you a little bit?
Well, I knew he could do it if he got his power applied to the track, and we had a pretty decent run then. It's going to be interesting.
A lot of controversy about the 5 speeds. Glidden's running at Larry Morgan in the 4 speeds. What do you think, candidly?
Well, Steve, in the paper at Columbus, I said that I was for anything that'd make them go faster, so I'm going to stick with it.
My kind of racer.
Sounds to me like we'll be seeing a 5-speed transmission in Darrell's car soon.
Well, you won't be seeing one of this. This is Joe Amato's Top Fuel car. He goes against Don Prudhomme in the Top Fuel Final 4.
John Ford's attack team will overlook nothing as they prepare his Nigel Funny car for the Final 4 here at the NHRA like Grandnational Molson. They know that elapsed times in the 550s are not going to win this race unless there's a heaping of luck to go along with them. They want to get this car back in the 530s where it belongs to try to protect the Winston point lead against the rapidly closing Mike Dunn. Well, speaking of point leaders, here is the man in Top Fuel, Don Prudhomme, the Skull Bandit machine, and he faces Joe Amato, number 2 in points. The lead is at stake right here. And again, you'll be riding high atop the wing of the Amato Valvoline Special. If Amato beats the snake, he's the points leader.
You can bet this will be one of the better Top Fuel races today, Steve.
And Amato had lane choice and has taken the near lane. That's not surprising. But remember, Frank Hawley, the low qualifier, did it over in the far lane. So I think the snake will be comfortable there. If we could just feel the acceleration and smell the nitro. The What we did feel was a loss of traction. You saw the blue smoke, the lower part of your screen. Amato, too much for this racetrack. Don Perdon, low elapsed time of the entire event at 5.02, knocking on the door of the fours.
As we watch this replay, both drivers came off the line almost identical, but Amato's car had too much clutch engagement and immediately smoked the tires. So the points lead stays with Don Perdon.
Back at the starting line, another pair of Top Fuel dragsters ready to go. That is the Frank Hawley Coors Light automobile in the near lane. He goes against the Budweiser king of Kenny Bernstein. Bernstein with the lane choice with a 5:05, but he obviously saw that number go up on the board of Don the Snake Perdon, and that's got to get his attention, Big Daddy.
Well, you can bet Kenny is plenty happy about that 02. He's looking to turn some kind of a number just like it. Meanwhile, Steve is down at the end with the Snake.
No pressure for Don Perdon, merely racing for the Winston points lead, a potential Molson Grand Nationals title. And what does he do? Fires low, elapsed time of the event, 5:02.
Oh, great. Well, we needed it. You know, the Skull Band and Haviland car's been running pretty good, but you know, it's, you know, Motto's tough. They're all tough right now, and so we just, we'll see what happens in the final.
This motor is sizzling and popping. Sounds like a steam iron. Is it all right?
Well, it should be. There's a gasket that's out there that we're going to have to fix. Same thing we had first round.
Good luck.
Thanks, Steve.
Well, they lean on them pretty hard these days. It's when a rod is hanging out of them that they don't like. Gaskets are no problem. And that's just exactly what happened to Bernstein. He had to change his engine prior to this round. Frank Hawley knows that, but he's got to pick up some of that performance that he lost. He came into this race low ET of the event. Now he's not low ET anymore. The Snake has taken that, and he's got a formidable opponent in the other lane by the name of Kenny Bernstein.
All right, here we go. Great start. Hawley fades, Bernstein wins it. Bernstein pulled one out of the hat. Dale Armstrong did that new engine, a 5:05. Hawley hazed the tires to a losing 5:17. At the starting line, Brock's with the winning crew chief.
Well, Dale, now we got a shootout on our hands.
Yeah, well, you know, going into this route, I thought a 5:05 would look pretty good, but now after the Snake ran that thing, I don't know. We'll have to step up a little bit. Thanks, Ken.
Okay, real close.
Well, I'm sure they'll be able to step it up some. The question is, how much can you step it up and not smoke the tires? As we watch this start, we see that Bernstein took a very slight starting line advantage. It looked like Hawley had his act together, was going to pull it off just fine. But then we saw that little bit of haze of blue smoke. Wasn't very much, but it was enough to make the performance fall off just a little bit. Bernstein moves on for the win.
So, the Top Fuel final, a couple of old funny car rivals now in Top Fuel, Bernstein and the Snake Don Perdon. And Steve is with Kenny.
A Kenny Bernstein, Don Perdon final in Top Fuel. There won't be a car moving early in this parking lot.
Funny car guys, huh? How about that?
Yeah. What a change from a year ago.
Oh, boy, we both had a terrible years last year. Don right here, we helped up with a guardrail and everything else. We both struggled, but it's neat to be able to run him. He's running awful good, though, I want to tell you.
Well, you were his biggest fan when he dropped a motto out of the points deal here.
Well, you know, all three of us are so close that right now, they're just, all three cars are running great, and Frank Hawley and those guys did a great job, too.
You know, I think you could at least get back into second place if you can win the final round. I haven't done the math, but I think so.
Yeah, I think that's where it'd go, and then it tightened up for that first place a little bit. But right now, we just need to try to win a race, and we're just glad for Budweiser and Quaker State Mac Tool right now.
And we've got a dead-even racetrack, it would appear.
It sure looks like it. Both lanes look great.
Oh, boy, this is going to be fun.
I would sure like to get into the minds of those two crew chiefs right about now.
That would be Dale Armstrong versus John Medlin. And speaking of rivalries, how about this man, Bob Glidden? He will face his arch rival Warren Johnson in Pro Stock Final Four.
Play Grandnational Molson on the most beautiful day you could possibly imagine. The only dark cloud I've seen has been the one over the head of John Force. First his fire in qualifying, now the car mired in the 550s. Austin Cole, the crew chief's trying to step up the performance on that very car over there, the Castrol GTX Special. And they're up against Mike Dunn. And Dunn could make further advances on John Force's points lead. As they warm them up, let me take a moment to invite you to become a member of a very special organization, the National Hot Rod Association. For $45 per year, you get 48 issues of National Dragster, a patch, pen, rule book, and a lot more. And if you order by calling the number on your screen, you'll get a free copy of Diamond P's Home Video Drag Racing 90. So call today. John Force is a member, so's Mike Dunn.
Well, as I look at this race, I can imagine what the two drivers are thinking. Forrest is just hoping that Austin Coyle has put his finger on the problem, and Mike Dunn hopes he hasn't, and he can just keep repeating with those 540s, maybe a 539, who knows. But Forrest wants that thing to make a giant step on performance.
Well, let's recall that fire of John Forrest. That set the crew back. They had to spend all their time repairing the car instead of advancing it performance-wise. So they're playing catch-up. John Forrest and Mike Dunn. Oh, Mike Dunn loses to John Forrest. Dunn had him used up, had him beaten. You saw the tire smoke and the splendid job of driving that Mike Dunn did to try to stay in the fray. But it was all for naught. John Forrest wins it at 5:55 to a losing 5:60.
Well, Dunn makes a brilliant start, gains a half a car length in a heartbeat, and it looks like he's running away with the race. Forrest smokes a little bit, backpedals it, gets back after it, and Dunn goes up in smoke. The crew, headed by his father, Jim Dunn, must have got too aggressive on the clutch, and it cost him the race.
Well, the hat trick will not go to Mike Dunn. You stopped him in his tracks, John. Great driving.
Nothing else matters. Sold all the T-shirts and got around that son of a gun. Can't believe it. Cole told me, Forrest, have a little faith and pedal this hunk. And boy, Dunn was out on me. He was driving. I thought she's in trouble, but she was shaking. I pedaled her and she cleaned up and he died and I'm alive.
Just stepped up at one time?
One time, and she shook pretty hard. It'd been shaking all week, and then it smoked him through the lights, and he says, can't win anyway. We're just kind of screwed up here, so learn how to drive again. So we pedaled her and like again, we're kicking.
Well, I'd rather be lucky than fast, but I do have to say John Forrest is the best in the business at backpedaling one of these cars.
Well, here's a crew that had a lot of work to do. The crew of the Hawaiian Punch car. You remember they banged that blower. They split the body. They had to replace the body, the supercharger, many components on that car. Al Hoffman and Tom Anderson, they are sneaking through this field kind of like a shark with that BDS car. They run a little quicker and a little quicker. They're not burning anything up. They have a nice laner on their side. They could be double tough for White.
Well, White has the advantage performance-wise, but it's not very much. And in this business, all you got to do is just whisk the tires.
Oh, he did more than whisk them. Al Hoffman is out of here. Jim White is into the final round against John Forrest with an 1100th advantage over the Winston champ of 5:44 at 2:70. Right now, let's go to the starting line. Brock with car owner Roland Leon.
Well, now, okay, the question is, you're going up against a force that's a little bit crippled this time. What are you going to do? You got a full tenth on him right now.
Probably leave it alone.
Just not touch that rest.
Not very much.
Good job.
Thank you.
Well, that sets up the pairings for the funny car final. It will be Jim White versus John Forrest, and if you've been paying attention, you know that Jim White will have the lane choice with his 544. Now, back over in the pit area, you remember Don Perdomo saying, oh, we just pushed a gasket out? Well, a gasket and a crankshaft. There is an engine change going on as they prepare to race Kenny Bernstein in the finals here at Grandnational Molson. Stay with us. Pro Stock Final 4 coming up next.
Back at the Sanair racetrack outside Montreal, Quebec, where a new engine being dumped into the top fuel dragster of Don Prudhomme. That fantastic 502 motor that sent low ET of the event, blown up now, scrapped. So he will face Kenny Bernstein with a new power plant.
And right now it's time for a young man in the AC Delco Oldsmobile, Scott Jeffreyon, who has never won an NHRA national event, to go up against the defending Winston champion, a man who has won 4 out of the 7 races held this year alone, Darrell Alderman in the Dodge. And it is a frightening potential that the Dodge has. This is only their 4th run of the entire event. We explained they were late to qualify. Jeffreyon, however, has the performance, I think, Don Garlitz, to meet the challenge.
Yes, he has. I think he's running as good as anybody here. The question is just how much information is the Alderman team getting each run to be able to tune the Dodge up? Is it going to be enough to face Jeffreyon? Maybe Jeffreyon will even get some more performance.
Jeffreyon is really a bright light in the Pro Stock Wars this year. He's a good-looking kid, very articulate, and more importantly than that, to team owner Warren Johnson, he's great behind the wheel of one of these 1,200 horsepower missiles, Darrell Alderman. Darrell Alderman. It is Darrell Alderman by a car length. Mike Sullivan, crew chief, says yes. Way to go. 7:23 for Alderman. He's back. 189.
Well, the cars leave the line. Looks like they're tied together, side by side, almost identical reaction times for both drivers, but the big Dodge begins to make a lot of power out about 300-400 feet, and you can see him pull away from the Jeffreyon car. By the time they get down to the end, he has put quite a bit of distance out in front of his competitor.
Wide margin for this type of competition, and don't forget, Alderman just set low ET for the event at a 723, which ups the ante because he'll face either Johnson or Glidden in the finals.
By a clean car length. Decisive win, Darrell.
Yeah, it seemed like it was a pretty good pass. I moved on Scott when I went into fourth. And,
what do you call pretty good?
Oh, 23.
You did it again. You hit it right on 723.
Yeah, it felt like a pretty good low in second gear. And like I've said before, when it does that, it usually ET's good.
Who do you pick between Warren Johnson and Bob Glidden?
Oh, gosh, you know, that'd be like guessing if it's going to rain in the next month, because it's going to really be a tough race.
All right, good luck.
Thank you.
Well, I think he's smart not to choose between Glidden and Johnson, because that is going to be a dog fight, no doubt about it.
Well, you consider the only 3 drivers who have won this year in 7 races are Darrell Alderman, who's won 4, Warren Johnson has won 2, and Bob Glidden has won 1. The 3 have dominated the category.
And of course, over the recent years, these two have established what is something less than a friendly rivalry between the Ford and the Oldsmobile camps.
Well, they're always looking for the edge. They're always trying to find out that little thing that'll make the difference. That's what makes them so competitive. Glidden right now maybe has found a little something in this 5-speed transmission. The other guys say, man, maybe it's not reliable enough. So we'll see what happens. One thing I know the fans are loving, it's Ford versus General Motors. Bob Glidden, the only competitive Ford Pro Stocker in the sport. Oh, yes. Rusty Glidden says, go Bob, then go he did. They both run 7.26 seconds, but it is Glidden with the win by 5 1/1000ths. When you consider the whole shot, it was only 2/100ths of a difference at the finish line.
Glidden makes a beautiful start. Look at that Ford pullout in front of that Oldsmobile in that initial run. Now, down course, Johnson does make a little bit more power and run a little better top speed, but he was never able to make up the difference. They both run 7.26, and it was the starting line advantage that won the race.
So Darrell Alderman has the answer to the question we posed to him. It'll be Bob Glidden he'll face in the Pro Stock Final.
I tell you, and WJ just never disappoint. What a drag race. 7.26 for both of you.
That was a good race. I'm glad we're going into the final. I think I saw a 7.23 on the board in front of me about the Dodge. So
yeah, that was not an illusion.
Going to be a tough one, but that's the way it goes.
Leave on him.
We'll try. You know how old men are.
Hey, I take umbrage to that.
Well, I'll tell you what, there aren't exactly a bunch of old guys in the John Force pit, but they're working hard to get his funny car ready to go against Jim White in the finals. We'll be back at Sanair right after this.
Only the professional finals remain here at the NHRA Grandnational Molson. And in French-speaking Canada, what better name than Don Prudhomme to be in the final round? And his crew has got a brand new engine fitted in those frame rails. Snake is up relaxing in the lounge, trusting his crew to get it done. And here is Pro Stock, the final round. The #1 driver in the world today, Darrell Alderman, at the wheel of the 4-speed Dodge Daytona. His opponent, the man at the wheel of the 5-speed Ford Pro, Bob Glidden. Brock, how do you call it?
Well, both these cars are run 723s here. Remember now, Glidden with a little more top end at 191 miles an hour, but on the other side, Alderman has been just so strong this season that I would imagine, Big Daddy, we have to throw a little bit of the edge to the Alderman car.
I don't know. That Glidden has been tough, and he always seems to come through when he needs it.
I think whoever leaves first, and it's Alderman who leaves first, but is it enough? It is more than enough. The Dodge has now won 5 out of 8 races this year, and oh my, both of them break the previous low ET. 720 for Alderman, 721 for Glidden, and side by side they both top 190. I cannot remember the last time that happened.
Unbelievable start, Steve. Glidden makes a little better start than he did against Johnson, but not near as good as Alderman. Alderman cuts almost a perfect flight, and the power of that Dodge takes him right out there. Now, Glidden ran good. The 721 to the Dodge's 720, and Glidden even had a little more top speed, 191. But it wasn't enough to overcome Darrell's starting line advantage.
There's that famous grin. The two quickest times of the entire event are recorded side by side. Your 720, Bob's 721. That's drag racing at its best.
Yes, it is. It's always a good race when these two cars get together, just like Warren and I. And I was looking forward to running, Bob.
Tell me about the race from the time you left the starting line to the finish line.
Well, we left the starting line there. It looked like the cars were running, you know, side by side, and I moved on him a little bit as soon as I put this car in fourth.
This car tends to move around. It appeared to go very straight that time.
Yes, they worked with the clutch, and they got it massaged where it hooked up good.
And another pile of points en route to what may be a repeat of the Winston Championship.
Well, I'm not going to comment or even think about any championship right now.
I like to do that, though.
I'm looking forward just to the next round.
And we'll see you at the next race.
Thank you.
I think when he looks at the tapes, he'll find he was ahead of Glidden much earlier than he thinks.
That's right, well before that fourth gear. John Forrest suiting up to do battle with Jim White. The Forrest attack team hopes they have come up with, at least a tenth of a second to give John if he's to hold on and win this Grand National title. Stick with us. Top Fuel and Funny Car Finals. Next up. Funny Car started out as a 16-car field. It is now down to 2. The final round, Jim White versus John Forrest. Let's see how Brock and Don see it.
Well, Big Daddy, on paper, this thing looks like a total burnout for White. I mean, it doesn't even look like Forrest is in the race, but things may have changed radically between the last pass and now.
Well, there's a full tenth of a second, Brock, between Forrest's car and the Hawaiian Punch car. And Austin Cole is no fool. He knows that. They don't have to worry about saving this engine for tomorrow or anything. I have an idea. They will pull out all the stops. If the car doesn't spin the tires, it's going to be a good race. Roland is not going to hop his car up. He's very conservative. He's run 40s all day long. He's just going to run another 40 in hopes that they make a mistake.
Not a word I could add to that. Let's just watch and enjoy the Funny Car final round at the Grandnational Molson. Tire smoke fills the driving compartment of John Forrest's Oldsmobile. It is Jim White winning here today at 5:59, 271 miles per hour. A great job by a great crew. They had to overcome some adversity themselves. John Forrest idling off the racetrack.
Well, Jim White takes a nice starting line advantage. You can see the car start to move out in force. They hopped it up. They pulled out the stops, and it didn't work. Roland, he was almost too conservative. A 5:59. He was vulnerable. Forrest could have outrun him with one of those 550s.
The 1991 season will be long remembered by Jim White. He won his first national event, the Arizona Nationals, earlier this year, and now make it 2.
Baby, man, has that ever been a long time coming, and what a job that Roland and everybody on the Hawaiian Punch team did today. We started off, it looked so simple, outrunning 30s, and we had the bye in the first round. Second round, we blew the blower off, and we started having problems, split the body, new body, changed this, changed that.
Changed everything with the car owner.
I thought we had a kitchen sink there. If there was anything dragging in that semifinals, it would have been a sink. But the car just ran perfect there. I guess it spun the tires a little bit. It got pretty loose out in the middle. But
Slowed it to a 5:59.
We'll take it. Anytime you can beat the world champ, you did good.
And he's been your victim in both your national event wins so far.
I know, and last year, it seems to be fair because last year he beat me 6 or 7 times in a row. I was 0 for 7 last year, so, you know, it ought to come back around. Wes Cerny did a great job tuning the car. Roland Leong does a wonderful job buying the parts and hiring the right people. Rick, Dave, Brian, Jr., all of them did a good job today, and we're real proud to be here.
Have a pleasant evening.
Thank you.
World champ, he better start looking over his shoulder.
All right. Well, Jim White's going to enjoy it for the time being as we get ready for the Top Fuel final. And what a show this is going to be. Bernstein versus Prudhomme. As we said earlier, Don has lane choice, but he did have to change engines. Of course, these guys have faced each other over the years a ton of times. In fact, 29 times.
And Bernstein has won 21 of those. Now, this was the last time the two met head-to-head. Funny car category, obviously, the 85 Winston finals. Bernstein trying to avenge a loss to Prudhomme. Prudhomme beat him in a funny car final in 82 at Sanair, where we are broadcasting today. But this was that final round, and a scary one it was, as Prudhomme almost tagged the back of Bernstein's car, but Bernstein won the 85 Winston finals. So in final round, head-to-head confrontations, they are one apiece. This is the tiebreaker, and what a race it should be. Everybody on their feet. Not a single car has left this racetrack. Prudhomme and Bernstein, it is a classic.
This should be the best race of the day.
Oh, yeah. Yes, it is. It is Bernstein. He got the better start. Just a slight little hole shot. And a brilliant elapsed time. 5:02 at 284 to Prudhomme's 5:03. Brock Yates?
Dale, quick word. Congratulations. A great pass.
Was that ever a good run, huh? I mean, what a pair of good cars right there. That's a fantastic race, and someday it's just your day, I guess.
Yeah, that's what the sport's all about, though, isn't it?
It really is. I like to see a terrific race like that.
Congratulations. Great work on your.
Thank you.
Well, they didn't start off strong at this event, but they sure ended up strong. As we watch the replay, we see Kenny Bernstein take a little starting line advantage, but Prudhomme's car seems to make it up and hold his ground. And it looked like as they moved down track, the cars were tied together. But as we reach the end of the track, we begin to notice that Armstrong's motor must be making more power, and he gets out in front and wins it.
5:02 to a 5:03.
Oh, it's a heck of a run, and Don Prudhomme and Skoll, I mean, everything's going for them. They're good. We're good friends. Not bad for two old funny car guys. Couldn't hit their back ends last year.
Oh, that's the truth. Now, we'd have to check with the guys in the tower, but you might have taken the 50 points away from the Snake with that 0-2. We'll have to check the thousands digit.
Well, it's got a long season to go for that Winston championship. It's going to take a lot to get there. This is just one race. We got, what, 11 more of these things to go?
Yeah, but you've won 4 of them. You just got to quit going out in the first round of the ones you lose.
Well, we sure step on it sometimes there. But, you know, again, thanks to Budweiser, Quaker State, Mac Tool, Eagle Snacks, our people. We need them, and we appreciate them.
We'd like to say goodbye to the Snake, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll tell you, in 1 year, you've gone from being upside down in a muddy ditch to almost making the winner's circle.
Well, you know, after our performance here last year, turned this thing, you know, our thing over and everything, it's been horrible, and we fought our way back, and you know, Kenny just run real good, and it was his day.
Great drag race. Did you know he had won?
Well, I figured he was, you know, he was right there all the way, and I don't even know what the numbers were.
0-2 to 0-3.
Okay.
2 great competitors on this day.
And even better news for Bernstein. He moves past Joe Amato in the point standings, having gotten low ET and the victory. Our congratulations to all the winners here at Sanair, Quebec. For Steve Evans and Big Daddy Don Garlitz, I'm Brock Yates. Thanks for joining us.
The executive producer for American Sports Cavalcade is Harvey M. Palish. Produced and directed by John B. Mullen. Promotional consideration provided for and a fee paid by this special offer from Diamond P.
They take it to the limit and beyond. They force body and machine to the extremes of endurance. Often unpredictable, always spectacular. That's the reason Diamond P Sports has once again opened its action-packed archives to produce a dramatic new video entitled And They Walked Away Too. The blazing inferno of high-performance gone awry. Open-wheel sprint cars locked in death-defying ballets. The heart-stopping drama of unbelievable two-wheel disasters. Awesome displays of man and metal turned to mayhem. To get your copy of And They Walked Away Too, send $24.95 plus $4 shipping and handling to the address on your screen. Or better yet, call 1-800-767-9700. Visa and MasterCard accepted, no CODs. That's 1-800-767-9700. Call today.
The American Sports Cavalcade is a presentation of Diamond P Sports.